Is would anyone like to take minutes for me? Anyone interested, willing? It's okay if you don't. You have the
Sandra,
recording.
I totally will.
You're right away.
Okay. All right, Aaron, if you don't mind, that'll be great.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, perfect. So we can get started with introduction. So I think we do have a few new members, so that is exciting. And we have some returning members. So we can definitely take some time to go through some introductions. And then the other part of the first thing that was kind of in the agenda as well was just sharing any resources that we know are coming up. So when you're doing the introduction, I think at the same time, if you have any resources that you know are coming up that you would like to share, please share them. And we'll start around the room, actually. We have Amy Smith over there with the VA. Introduce yourself.
So hi, I'm Amy. I work at the VA with the Caregiver Support Program.
Awesome. John?
I'm John Houston. I'm General Manager with Columbine Caregivers.
I'm Yvonne. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director at Aspen Ridge, and we have Caregiver Support Group coming up December 12th.
I'm Susan Harris. I'm this guy's wife, Robert Harris. He asked me to join today. I'm an LPN BSN student for my RN at St. Mary, CMU, and I'm a nurse at St. Mary's Hospital on the Rehab and Neurotrauma Unit, and I'm heading up our professional governance meeting, and caregiving is respite is something that we want to bring to attention there and help our patients as well as caregivers with that. So
that's awesome. I'm so glad that Rob asked you to come and pulled some strings to have you here. So thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rob Harris. I'm a dad, first and foremost, of a young lady. She's will be 17 tomorrow. She happens to be blind and has some other disabilities as well. But so I've been involved with caregiving on that element, but it's been interesting because now I'm trying to create solutions here in our local community as well. And one resource that we have that's coming up is Center for Independence in the Arc of Mesa County is having a signing Santa. And they'll be hosting that at the ARC office on Grand. So that's 845 Grand Avenue on December 16th from 2 to 4:30. And so that'll be for all of our deaf and hard of hearing folks, including our older guys and ladies that would like to participate. So just fun time for the season.
What's the date and time in that?
Yeah, sorry, it's December 16th, 2 to 4:30 p.m. And that'll be at the ARC of Mesa County's office.
And if you all have any flyers for what's happening, please feel free to email them to me and I can send them out. I probably won't have minutes ready to go pretty soon, but I can at least just send out the flyers about the resources that we talked about. So that way we have them handy, because I know we all have a lot going on, so I don't expect anyone to remember all that is happening. And I'm Sandra. I'm the coordinator for ADRC and a couple other programs at the Family Resource Center. And so I do have just a couple updates and resources. So first, I would like to say that if you're not all aware, I do just want to let people know ADRC is going through some staff turnover, so we're a little short-staffed. So phone calls are taking us a little bit longer to return, applications are taking us a little bit longer to process, and so I'd just like to put it out there on all of our partners' radar that it might just taking us a little bit longer to get back to people. But we're still offering all the services, and it just might take a little bit longer. I had a couple other resources kind of come into my email. One of them, we recently made a connection with the Rocky Mountain MS Society. So they are based out of Denver, or sorry, it's Rocky Mountain MS Center. They are based out of Denver, but they provide a lot of support even for our Western Slope individuals. So they actually just recently had an event where they got together all of the individuals that are served here in the Western Slope, and ADRC was able to participate and be there and get to know them. And so one of the things that is happening related to caregiving is they will have a support session for caregivers and partners. So they are inviting the caregivers and their support partners to join this session. You know, they just talk about the crucial role that the partners play, the challenging things that they find. There's going to be like a licensed social worker come to talk about just the work that she's been doing, the research that she's been doing. And so the event, it is going to be on Monday, December 11th. And like I said, I'll share the link so that people can reserve their spot. The admission is completely free. They would just need to reserve their spot. It is going to be virtual for our Western Slope individuals, but I think it's definitely a really good opportunity. The other thing that just kind of came in my radar, which I don't know if everybody's familiar. Obviously, just with housing always been an issue. I just wanted to share that it looks like there are some more housing options over in Delta. There's a couple residents in Delta that are allowing, that are opening housing for older adults. So this is for folks over 62. So I will also be sharing those flyers in the email. Just I know that we are the Western Slope, so the coalition. So I know that we have quite a few people that served individuals in Delta. So want to make sure you're aware of those two resources that came up.
Hey, Sandra, sorry, not to interrupt. Amy Harris had sent something, I think, about this to me. Is it the like Casa AAA housing? Is that? But actually, this is in Montrose.
There's a couple, I believe. So there's a couple initiatives that I'm aware of that are happening. So I may be wrong, but I think the one that you may be talking about is I just heard that they did an initiative in Montrose or Delta, somewhere there, where they are integrating younger population, like houseless individuals that are maybe like early teens, young adults, with older adults, right? They're trying to like help connect both of those generations and help support each other. So there is an initiative that's starting in that regards. I believe that this one is different. It's just kind of very similar to if you're from Grand Junction, the Highlands, right? They have their older adults over 65 through the housing authority that can rent at a low income, if they're low income at a reduced cost. So that is my understanding of this. Like I said, I will be sharing this with you all so that you can contact them. But yeah, this is with the Delta and Delta Housing Authority. And then I just wanted to give you all an update from the last meeting. The last meeting we spent a lot of time talking about our Stress Busters group that we were going to start. So Tiffany with St. Mary's and I partnered to do a Stress Busters group, and we were really struggling getting people there, right? We had a person who had participated in a different class and she made it to all 8 weeks, but she did not want to come to the caregiver support group. I had to call her 3 times and tell her how beneficial I thought it would be for her. But were able to get 6 individuals that completed the classes. They came to all, other than missing 1 or 2, but they came to all 9 sessions. And we even had a false start session that 2 individuals came to. And so it was very successful. We do believe our individuals that completed the class got a lot of it out of it, and they were very happy, and they were committed to finish the last session. So I just wanted to share with this group that we have been able to complete that. With the ADHD insured staff, we're kind of taking a little bit of hiatus on that, on scheduling any classes, but if you do still have any caregivers that you think would benefit from support, please just have, put them in our radars, have them give us a call, or you can send us their information. We can put them in the wait list, and we're looking at some options, maybe continuing that partnership with St. Mary's. Maybe there's someone else that I can train that can do that. We're definitely looking at options, so we don't want that to fall out of our priority list. So just if you do have people that are interested in, we don't have any upcoming ones, but just have them give us a call, or you can all send me their information and I will add them to the wait list. All right, those are my updates. We can start with introductions and the people in the chat. So let's see, Rachel, I see you're unmuted, so we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and I am a care coordinator for People Care.
Thank you for joining us, Rachel. Are you located at the Delta office?
Yeah, but I'm in Grand Junction.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Tonya Valdez.
So I'm Tanya Valdez. I'm the new general manager for Comfort Keepers. This is actually my first meeting here with this group, so I really don't have anything to share.
Well, thank you for coming. We're so glad that you're here.
Thank you.
Allegra?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for welcoming me into this meeting today. My name is Allegra Mangione, and I am, first and foremost, a marketing consultant, and I work with the Colorado Respite Coalition on their organization-wide marketing. And Erin and Sandra invited me today because I know your last meeting, you talked about marketing a lot, so to just be here as a resource. And I'm looking forward to learning more about what you all are doing as a coalition. Thanks for having me.
Maggie?
Hi, my name is Maggie. I am a case manager at previously Mesa Developmental Services, which we're now with Rocky Mountain Health Plans, and I'm excited to be here.
Maggie. Erica, would you like to introduce yourself? I believe this is your first meeting, right?
My first meeting. So I'm going to piggyback on Maggie. I am also with Rocky Mountain Health Plans, formerly with the Single Entry Point for long-term services and supports. And now we are the case management agency for long-term services and supports with the addition of our previous MDS workers. So now we are one case management agency that manages all waivers from, birth through the end of life. So we're excited about that. This is my first meeting, so I'm just trying to get information. And if there's any information I can share, I'm happy to do that. Thanks.
And I know quite a few of us may work with you. Do you have any updates on how the transition's going?
And maybe Maggie can help me with this. Oh, I feel like the transition's gone pretty well overall. I know that there were some hiccups in terms of mainly, just carrying data over and stuff from the old agency to the new agency. But I think we're settling in fairly well. Right now, there's still, if you were working with someone who was previously with MDS and who is now with Rocky Mountain Health Plans, you'll be working with the same people primarily, same with the single entry point. So we haven't done a whole lot of integration in terms of that right now. But I think overall we're settling in.
Yeah, I would piggyback off of what Erica said. It's been a great transition, super easy. I think it's a great benefit for the community for every Medicaid waiver to be under the same house across the state, but especially in Mesa County. So really, it's just getting all of our new information out there, contact information, but it's been great.
Well, thank you both for taking the time to be here today. I know that you probably all have a lot to learn and learning curve and the new system and all of that. So I really, really appreciate both of you being here today with us. Laura?
I'm Laura Sharon. I am a parent with a child on the waiver. I'm also a caregiver, and I am a case manager for aerial clinical services. So I encompass several different areas.
Thank you so much, Laura, for being here. And Erin, I left you for last because there is something that I forgot to put in the agenda that you want to help reminding. So I'll let you introduce yourself and talk about the potentially coming to visit.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Great. I am Erin. I'm the program coordinator for the Colorado Respite Coalition. We're a program of Easter Seals, Colorado. So our grant initiative requires that we host or, do outreach through these regional coalitions. So we just really appreciate the work that Sandra and Rob and Eva and everyone has done to revitalize this regional coalition. I think most of you know by now this coalition's existed for a very long time, but like everything else through COVID, kind of went stagnant. So yeah, I just really appreciate, Sandra. I think you've done such a good job keeping these meetings on track. And yeah, there's a contacts list. I don't know if everybody knows this in Google, that I just added a couple of you to, and then we have the meeting minutes in there. So yeah, this is a very organized coalition and I appreciate you all being here. And thanks Allegra for being here today.
Yeah, and with the Google link, if you don't have it, like if you're new or haven't access, then we can resend it out. And we're also putting all the flyers in there, right? And our Stress Busters flyer was there, like if you do need help talking about what Stress Busters is and stuff like that. So we're kind of hoping to build that too, right? Have a place that we can all go and say, like, I know they said something about something, but I can't remember. You can look through there and see what we may have been talking about. So we'll have it in multiple places, hoping that we don't lose track of it because we're all professionals and get a million emails. And so we do lose track of things. Erin, you were talking about you were wanting to come in April and potentially we're April 2024.
Yeah. So did Amy reach out to you?
No, I thought that was you. Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. Yeah, I think Amy,
to,
it should be my role, but yeah, Amy's kind of helping me out with some of there's the many things we have up in the air. But yeah, we're trying to get some in-person regional visits on the books. So yeah, if that is something that you are all interested in, we just figured, the year anniversary of when we were there last, but it doesn't have to be then. But for us traveling from the east in a warmer month, even though there was a big snowstorm the last time we were there. But anyway, trying to wait till the warmer months. But yeah, if that's something you're interested in, I think her idea was that we would just get together just to kind of see how things have gone over the year and then potentially host either a professional stress bustings program, which like the folks on this call could participate in. It's just a 1 day, I think it's like a half day really, but it maybe like, a couple hours before lunch, a lunch, and a couple hours after type of thing. It's a very similar programming to the caregiver stress busting, but it's just for professionals to combat compassion fatigue. So she thought that might be a good use of our time while we're out there, or, stress busting for caregivers. But Sandra, we have struggled the same way you do to get folks into, it's a 9-week commitment. It's a great program and they get so much value out of it, but it's really hard to get folks to commit to the 9 weeks or just to commit to it at all. But anyway, yeah. So interested in coming out there in April if you want us to, and if you see any value in that.
I wanted to bring up the professional one, the stress busting for professionals. I think it would be a really wonderful class for everybody, to learn about. And I know, Laura, you had mentioned, like maybe some of your host homes, but they may not be able to commit to the 9 weeks. So if you have any agencies that you think would have the time and would be interested, a lot of our caregivers with Columbine, Comfort Keepers, Aspen Ridge, like if there are any, I think it's a really wonderful class. I think it really teaches people a lot about just kind of setting boundaries, like how to, again, combat that compassion fatigue that caregivers and people in the caring profession can face. So I just wanted to make sure that we talked about it, because I would encourage people that work with agencies to, if you are interested, reach out to Erin. If April doesn't work, if you want to wait into June, July, again, I would say probably not winter months, but I think it would be really good for us for this coalition to take advantage of, for the providers in this coalition. So.
Cool. And then Sandra, something we could do too, and I was going to mention it when you said, Allegra's been helping me for a lot of these things that, we offer several times of the year or whatever. What we've been defaulting to is using Google Forms to like gather interest. So maybe we could do something like that for just this group, like what date works for you, and would you want to participate in and it would have like a better description of the programming, and like, when would you be interested in it? So maybe we could circulate something like that to gather that interest.
Another thing that I just kind of thought about is, if we wanted to, we could always do it for this coalition, and you all could see what the class was about, right? You all could go through it. Both Tiffany and I got trained to do the caregiving stress busters for professionals. We have a bunch of books, we just, COVID happened and we just never really were able to get it off the ground. So it is something that if you all see value on, but maybe before you bring it to your agency, you want to know more about it. Something to think about too, if you all want to do it for this coalition, and then we can figure out how to do it again or how to bring it to your agencies.
And I'll add, just as a participant of Stress Busters too, it's fantastic. I mean, I feel like I knew pretty well how to deal with stress, and I feel after the class I was better equipped, but possibly, or maybe, and it could be an option to try a little marketing, I'll do a little video and talk about it, and we can plug it through all of the marketing channels that we are. Sometimes putting the personal story to it and saying, hey, yes, it is a commitment, but it's worth it, might be just the motivation that could help in that way. So I guess I'm volunteering myself for that, but maybe we can find anybody else that's participated, because I'm often in both sides of the world, and so I see the value, and it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great transition. I'll give you all the floor to also give some feedback, but yes, I think that is kind of why we had Allegra here today too, right? Because so we want to talk about some of that, how do we reach people, right? And how important those real life stories are, because yes, I think the biggest thing with Stress Busters, like this second group had someone that had been told by their friend that it was worth it, that it was valuable, that they should go. And she was the one that was there for even the false start, right? Like she was committed because she knew what the value was. So how do we take advantage of those things? That's kind of why we wanted to have Allegra here and see what kind of support we could get from Easter Seals. But before we move on, does anybody have any thoughts on the stress class, questions, interest in taking it?
You talk about a fall class. Do you do both fall and spring, or like something all year round, like 8 weeks apiece, or is that something that will be looked at more?
Yes, the caregivers is 9 weeks, so it's 2 hours for 9 weeks. And right now we don't have like any ongoing classes. It's just whenever we have enough people interested, and we can set something up and set a good time. So last time we tried to do it from 4 to 6. We figured maybe people work, maybe they and people were like, nope, that's too late. So that's why we had a false start. We actually had to push to an hour earlier, which worked a lot better for the people that were interested. So we're still troubleshooting that, like when it's a good time, what works best, how to get people interested. But yes, for the caregivers, those 9 weeks, the one that Erin was talking about potentially putting when she's here it would be strictly for professionals, and I do think it's about for 6 hours. It's basically those, we take 2 hours, 9 weeks to work with our caregivers, get them to know themselves, know each other, and then we condense that and 6 hours for our professionals. So it is still really wonderful. I think one of the things that have we have for chatting about certain things, but I think it is still like a really good class.
Yeah, just to add this onto it, I don't know if this is here nor there, but I liked your idea of doing it with this group, because I think that you mentioned, like, it's kind of a tough thing to have like groups of folks from the same organization do together. It's kind of good to have a mix, because, to give them the space to kind of vent about things, or, or even if they do work together, something that Amy's looked out for in the past is to make sure that like supervisors and the people they supervise aren't in the same group, just to give them the freedom, to talk about anything that's stressing them out, that kind of thing. So to throw that out there, having groups of people from different walks and different and that kind of thing can sometimes just give them they feel a little bit better sharing some of the things that stress them out and that kind of thing.
Would then I guess maybe a better question would be like, would anyone be opposed to taking the class if we could have Erin come and teach it? You'll be interested.
It'd probably be Amy. It'd probably be Amy. Yeah, she's the master of it. But yeah, maybe.
Do you still have 2 facilitators for that, or just the one?
We've always used 2, but we usually do it where like the one person is leading and the other person's kind of like technical, you know, and you're getting the books and setting up the room and that kind of thing.
Awesome.
I think we as a like our case management team, I could definitely talk us into if we did like a condensed 6-hour, like one whole day, and plan it far enough out. I think our adult services would definitely be interested in doing it. So.
Yeah, and we have done it with groups. The last one Megan and Amy went to Larimer County to do it, but the one I did with them was with the, is it LEAP? It was one of the CDHS programs that has to do with like nutrition and that kind of thing. So they were all from a similar agency, just no one reported to each other. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, I think that would be great. I think it would be great interest, and I really do think it would be good to have you guys as our guinea pigs. Perfect. And Rob, I really appreciate you volunteering to be the voice of how good this program is for people in general.
Yeah, you bet.
So yeah, we can move on then to the next topic, which was Allegra just kind of talking about how she can support us. As you know, Allegra, we have here case management agencies, caregiving agencies, parents, the VA that has more restrictions maybe on how they advertise and everything. But yeah, just kind of what do you do? How can you support us? And what thoughts do you have after hearing us talk for a while? You're muted.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm happy to be here, and definitely I took a look at the recording of your meeting last time, so I have some context, and it's been helpful to just be listening in up until this point to gain more context. But I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Allegra, and my marketing agency is called Catharsis. We work solely with nonprofit organizations and are based out of Denver, and it's me and 2 other really amazing professionals, a graphic designer and one who is a really amazing writer and content creator as well. And so I thought maybe it would be helpful to share a little bit about the work that I've done with Colorado Respite Coalition to kind of give you an idea of my work, and then we can kind of open the floor for, I don't know if a Q&A is helpful or just kind of however we want to have a discussion after that. But I've been working with the Colorado Respite Coalition for going on a year now. And we really started together by doing an audit to kind of see what they're doing well as an agency or an organization with marketing and kind of where the areas of improvement were. And from there, we built out a marketing plan. And since we've created the plan, we've been implementing a lot of different pieces of it. And I'll give a couple examples. One is the website. So CRC's website we found had a lot of great information, but it was confusing to navigate. So we've been working on changing the navigation menu and the structure of the site so that it's really clear for our different audiences, you know, folks who are caring for maybe a child with a disability, or folks who are caring for an adult with a disability, or folks who are caring for an older adult, where they can get the information that's pertinent to them. So that's kind of one project we're doing, is kind of revamping the navigation of the site and some of the content on the site to make it more accessible for our caregivers. And then a second thing that I wanted to share that we have recently launched is a Facebook group for Colorado caregivers. And we're really excited about that. We're just getting started and we already have about 60 members in the group. We launched it a couple weeks ago and that was a really exciting, Facebook and social media is getting harder and harder as a platform to engage folks, especially caregivers. But with a group, the information gets pushed out more than on just a regular Facebook page. So it's a way to stay in more constant communication with folks who are part of the group, even though it's a smaller number than the folks who follow our page. They're much more engaged. And so what we can share, once I'm kind of done talking, I'll share the link to the group in case any of you are interested in it or sharing it with folks in your network. It's a statewide group. But that's just two small examples. We're working on a bunch of other projects too of the kind of work that I've been doing with the Colorado Respite Coalition. And so I guess I'll kind of share one more thing and then open it up or pass it back to Sandra to see what questions y'all have or what sort of discussion you want to have with me. But one thing I always like to share and like to have as a framework for when we think about outreach and marketing is kind of like a who, what, and how model. So first is who. Whenever we're thinking about needing to improve our marketing, getting really clear on who our audience is always the best first step. So I'll use stress busting as an example, just because I know you all know it and it's relevant to this conversation. But really thinking through, okay, we want to reach caregivers with stress busting, but do we want them to live in a certain area if we're hosting in person? Are we focusing on caregivers who care for children? Are we focusing on caregivers who care for adults? So really kind of narrowing down that audience can give us a better idea of how to best communicate with them and how to best reach them. The second is to set clear goals. So the what, like what are we doing and why are we doing it? And so with stress busting, the goal would be pretty clear, kind of maybe it's enroll 10 people in the course. But getting really, and what I would say is like a less clear what is like, oh, we just want people to know who we are and what we do as an organization. That's really vague, but if we really can narrow in and say we want 10 caregivers of children with disabilities who live around Delta to enroll in this group, then that gives us a really clear path forward. And then finally, then we can start thinking about the how, and that's when we start talking about, do we need a flyer? Where do we need to distribute it? Do we want to use digital channels? Do we want to use advertising channels? That's when we can kind of get into the nitty gritty. But without the who and the what, it's really hard to be effective when you get to the how. So that's just kind of a framework I'll share that maybe it sparks some thoughts or when you're thinking about your own promotion and outreach for your own programs. Sandra, I'd love to kind of hear from you and from the full group about what are your questions, like what sort of resources and information when it comes to marketing and outreach are you looking for?
Right, and I think one of the things when you pointed out the group that you have and Facebook, we did kind of put that out there. I think at one point at the beginning of this coalition is, do we want to have a Facebook page? If we do, who keeps it up? Because I think that's, one of the things that we're all pretty busy professionals. But I think you're right. I mean, I think more and more agencies are kind of going towards, let's use Facebook to share some of our information out there, right? Like I know ADRC has been trying to do that. Meals on Wheels has their posts. They post something every single day. The Area Agency on Aging for our area is trying to do that. So I would like to put it out to the group, right? Like, do you all think, well, the question is, do you all think it would be beneficial to have Western Slope Respite Coalition Facebook? And if so, then we can talk about Allegra, what kind of support you might be able to provide with that.
So, a couple things. with marketing, and this is, I think, secondary to the Facebook component, just because I'm doing a lot of marketing myself. Do you have access to databases to where we can send or have you drill down on some of that information and those data points that we would be able to identify those markets? Because that's, I think, would be one of the biggest components. Is we cover the Western Slope, and that's huge. I know our community pretty well, and a few others maybe, but if we give you these data points that would be useful to us, is that the type of information that you could, create an action plan from, for example?
Are you kind of asking, like, if I have access to like contact records or like kind of like the people, or it's more
I'm thinking
so
like census data or any sort of the nationwide information portals that are already existing? I've tried to tap into some of those just to get a hold of, the blind and low vision community is such a very, very small community in my world. And so it's very difficult for me to even target market that world because they don't show up on any of those databases, for example. And so I'm thinking bigger when we start expanding that to Western Colorado. We have a lot of nooks and crannies that people are very comfortable in. It could be akin to the South in those hollows that people live in and just grow up in, and that's their world. But if we don't know, like I'm going to say, for an example, an income or a disability category, right? And I'm not a professional in a lot of these worlds, so forgive my ignorance. But essentially, I would want to identify who I'm after, but we don't have those resources here locally to tackle that info in all of Western Colorado. So I guess my question, a little more pointed, sorry for long-winded, but if we identify those data points specifically to what each of us might be able to bring to the table, can you then send that to those people?
That's kind of what I thought you were talking about, Rob, but yeah, just kind of one of the things that I have that you probably signed the agenda, right? We have that we want to do a caregiver conference. And we talked about maybe just doing informational nights rather than a caregiver conference, right? And do we have the data to say like Delta could really benefit from a kids related informational night? Grand Junction could really benefit from all three of them, or whatever. Like, do we have data to say what is the biggest population and what is maybe the biggest need that we can see that needs to be filled?
Yeah, so I don't have access to any sort of database like that. And I think kind of what I would say, and I think it's really tricky, right? Because if we're looking to reach new folks or a new population, where do we start? And one strategy that we're actually going to start working with to implement for the CRC within the next couple months is paid advertising on Facebook. And the cool thing about that is you can get really targeted from like in location and in interest. You can't quite get to the level of granularity of, oh, this is someone who cares for a child with disability, but you can look for people in Mesa County who are interested in parenting and interested in accessibility and kind of get down there. And then you're reaching new people who kind of have those interests, live in that space, and getting really good data on how they're interacting with the advertisements you put out. So that's like one strategy, for example. I would probably be, and maybe Amy Harris would know kind of what sort of databases are publicly available. And then if we put together a list and we had access to like mailing addresses or emails, we could put together a certain strategy using one of those channels to engage those folks. But another way, and I'm seeing Erin kind of put some ideas in the chat. I think another way is to think about the data sources that your agencies have access to. And I know that a lot of this is really sensitive data too, which makes this all the more difficult. But like, are there ways that you as a coalition can kind of combine forces and combine resources to get a better data set to be able to use that would like benefit everyone in the coalition?
I have to imagine and it's definitely an Amy question, and we work pretty closely with HCPF, who pretty much oversees Medicaid too. And I feel like there's got to be some aggregate data out there of percentage of families with disabilities or that kind of thing. So yeah, Rob, I mean, it's worth asking, and it's worth us doing whatever we can to get as close as we can to getting that data. But yeah, with so much data privacy now, I think it will be tricky. But yeah, I love that. That is, Facebook does have all of our data, but for this purpose, it's for good, finding those parents who need the things we have. So.
Is it worth going professionally into like LinkedIn versus just Facebook for social? Professional organizations use LinkedIn for a lot of advertising for stuff like this.
It's all about who your audience is, right? If you're looking to target professional caregivers, I think LinkedIn is a really viable platform to do that on. If you're looking to target family caregivers, probably somewhere like Facebook would be a little bit of a better fit.
Rob again. One other question. So I manage a few Facebook pages for marketing purposes. I'm a Lion. So I'm the marketing chairperson for one of our Lions clubs here locally. And so I get to see the behind the scenes of a lot of the Facebook world that, an average user doesn't necessarily see. So I see the value there. What I would say is putting all of social media into one bag in one sense, but also Facebook, because it all has to be managed individually. But what I would almost be interested in knowing about from Allegra is what about a information campaign to where we can have a messaging component and get it out to all of our various components that either we're already all connected to, but we have something, we have a package, we have a XYZ marketing component, including Facebook, because that's always a good vessel. But really what I'm interested in for us is because I get a lot of ads that say, hey, you're a parent, come and do this. And I really very much have to choose what's valuable and what's not. And so I think a lot of others do the same thing. And if I'm not sold, kind of like the Apple effect, the why, I hear the who, but clearly we're not going to necessarily get to the who yet, I don't think. But the why, we already have the why. We have it from all of us and our individual, components. So to me, I think our space or our time really would be spent getting some sort of a package together, and then we can each go sell it in our own way. I mean, my world's a lot different than everybody else's, but I'll bet you I can get the word out. And I think everybody else can do that as well. So is that something that, I mean, I'm coming in, I wasn't here at the last couple of meetings. We got really busy over the summer, but like, is that what we're talking about? And I'm almost asking everybody, but.
Yeah, and I think definitely the question was put out there on what we think would be valuable from this coalition, right? What is worth our time and our efforts? Because one of the things that we've talked about from the very beginning, right? It's like we all touch different things. Some of us may touch older adults, while some of us work with kids. They're all interconnected. But how do we keep the resources in one place, right? How do we put things where if you're looking for something, you know where to go? And that's kind of where I had this thought, right, about Facebook. If we had a Facebook and if we all had access to Facebook, right, like would that be a good way to have those posts of, hey, Amy's having a caregiver conference for veterans? Again, very specific. Maybe at that point, if we do any boosting, it's very specific to veterans, right? Or maybe a certain age group that might hit veterans. But, would that be valuable? Like if you do a caregiver conference and again, like really focusing on selling the why, like, yes, I think we can all use our platforms. Do we think Facebook would also be a beneficial platform?
So, I mean, Facebook for me, the thing that I value the most on Facebook is the groups. Mm-hmm. So like I coach baseball and I get all kinds of wonderful tips and tricks from that, or fun stuff about my truck or whatever, So almost creating a group for the Respite Coalition where you invite and have all of these members of our community as a part of that is a great way to communicate and get that information out. What I don't know is with groups, if you can do things like post on community message boards about, hey, here's this new group that we formed and here's what its purpose is and here's what our goal is. I don't know if you can do something like that. I could see value with Facebook doing something like that, and you can target audiences that are, I mean, geographic audiences, I guess. But in your messages on those community message boards and stuff, you might be able to draw that audience into a Facebook group where you can kind of establish some of that, you know, you can monitor it with administrators and moderators and all of those matters. It's going to be a matter of, do you have the volunteers and the time and the energy to manage and do that very well?
And I think that's a question for you, Allegra. I don't know that anybody right now at this coalition, right? And if you do, please do speak up. I think Laura has her hand up. So, but I would not volunteer anyone in this coalition at this time to take on that. And I think that's kind of where we were asking, is this something that, you know, Allegra, that your program could help with?
I mean, so we just launched like I said, we just launched a Facebook group for statewide caregivers, like a statewide Facebook group for family caregivers. And so what we could do is have another Facebook group that's specifically for the Western Slope Regional Coalition. And I think what we'd want to get really clear with in this group is, what would it be used for? Is the purpose really to attract family caregivers? Is it to attract professional caregivers? Is it both? What sort of resources are we going to share, so we can get a really good sense of, you know, how do we want to position this group? What messages do we want attached to this group? But then I think the Colorado Respite Coalition would be happy to promote it via our channels, to get, you know, anybody that we have in our networks plugged into it who would be interested in. But also it would kind of be up to all of the organizations that are part of the coalition to also promote it via their channels, share it on their organization's Facebook pages, share it through their newsletters too, so that, you know, like I said, like if we kind of all combine resources, then we can bring it together. But in terms of administering it, I think that's well within something CRC would be willing to do to support this work. And I'm looking to Erin to confirm that. But
yeah, it definitely, especially with how beneficial the one we've created for the state is, I think, yeah, it's worth trying, and we wouldn't expect, Sandra, you or anybody at the coalition, we would take that on. So no worries.
Thank you. Laura, I see your hand up. Did you have a comment, suggestion?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think the Facebook idea is a great one, but I also feel like our website still doesn't have a whole lot of information about our Western Slope. Like, we don't have a whole lot there either. So
you mean on the CRC website?
Yeah. So
I think that's very true.
I think that's something that we need to like look into as well, as putting more information there. And it's also a place that we could put up some flyers and resource items, or even like a monthly calendar would be kind of cool. And attach the flyers to the calendar. So if you're looking for that particular month, somebody can just sit, like, you can categorize it. This is for kids, this is for youth, this is for adults, this is for the specific type of community. I think that would be very beneficial just directly to our website, so that, you know, it's the less a person has to do, the better.
Right. Yeah,
and
the
I
calendar is on our wish list,
like,
for
not
sure.
only personal experience, but like, I work with a lot of adults that just don't want to use social media. And so, and older adults. And so I think a website is a little bit easier sometimes than there's the social media. So having two avenues would be helpful.
And I think that's a great thought, Laura. I did not put it on the agenda, but I know that, Erin, your website was under construction, but our goal was, right, to have all these resources and all these flyers that we talked about get posted there, and to potentially have a calendar where those events are listed. Are we ready to kind of move forward with that, Erin, or are we still in a holding pattern?
So Allegra is doing a lot of work with our, we have a person who built our website who she's working with. And so we had the calendar. I'm a little hesitant to talk about it because I know it basically requires like a ton of manual work on the back end of the website. But Allegra, is there anything we can talk about when it comes to the calendar? I know it's pretty far on the list of updates we have to make to the website.
I wouldn't wait for the calendar to make sure that this regional coalition has a presence on CRC's website. So I think that having information about the coalition and its members, and yes, like having a place to have maybe like 1 or 2 upcoming events at a time, maybe not a whole calendar, but the things that you're really looking as a coalition to promote is more doable in the short term. And the vision, just to share with you all, a vision that we have is to eventually have a calendar on Colorado Respite Coalition's website that has different respite related events throughout the state, and that you could even like then filter by region so that you could filter it and then have everything that's going on the western slope there. And that's a larger project, like Erin said, and we are, we're a small team here. We're working with a website developer. There's some technical aspects about how the website was created that makes it less efficient to edit than we would like. And so to be fully transparent, there are some particularly challenges with CRC's website, but if you all had, or if I, worked with Sandra or a small committee from this coalition on what information you want about your coalition up on CRC's website, that is a project that is, that could be done by the first quarter of the new year or something like that.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I think, we're still working on gathering people, right? And so I am wondering, would it be too difficult to try to do this with like even the group that we have right now? We have 10 people online, we had 6 here. Would it be, do you want something smaller than that, Allegra, or could we make that our, maybe our next subject for the meeting?
I think if we dedicated a meeting to it, we could do it with a larger group. And then I maybe want to work with Sandra, you and a partner on like once we could do kind of like a big group brainstorming session and kind of make sure we get everybody's input. And then I just work with 1 or 2 people on, putting that to the screen and getting it all set up and getting rounds of feedback just so the process goes a little faster, because I could see it would drag on and on if each meeting we kind of check in, like, this is what it looks like now, can we get everybody's feedback? But that said, we could implement some sort of step where everyone gets to review the page and share feedback on it so that we're not losing any voices. But I think that could work. Or if this big group doesn't want to spend their time that way, a committee of 3 or 4 folks could meet on a more regular basis to help advise that project. I think either one of those avenues would work.
And for me, I would be okay with either route, and so we could put it for a vote if we want to. The other thing that was in the agenda that I did want us to kind of start talking about was the caregiver conference. I had asked Amy to be here today to share kind of what her experience was, because she just put one on and has been putting one on for like 4 years. And so, yeah, like if there's other things that this coalition would like to prioritize, right? Like we kind of talked about, do we want to do the caregiver conference in the spring? Well, that's coming up soon. And so yes, I definitely would be okay with it going either way, whatever the group decides. Do we, we take a small group that works on the website, and then maybe we take some more time during the coalitions to talk about the caregiver conference. Any thoughts from anyone around here?
Not hesitantly, but I would be happy to help. I'm trying to think of what my next 6 months is looking like so I can make sure I'm not overextending myself. But this is really important to me. I mean, I show up to the meetings that I think have the most value in our world, and this is one of them. This is one of our priorities because I see the need from not only our perspective. So I'd be happy to help in whatever I can help with.
I know nothing about anything to do with websites or designs or anything, and so I can't help. But I'm willing to, provide feedback.
Right, yeah. Yeah, yeah, I think one of the biggest thing, right, like it's kind of like Laura's feedback was so important, where it's like as a parent and, like I don't want to go through all these things, right? Like we do have people that are like, we don't want to be on Facebook. So it is important to have that feedback on how things look like. Are they user friendly, right? And it's important to have people from different ages, different parts of lives, professionals as well as parents. And so yeah, I think I would be okay with us doing a subgroup if we feel like that would be the best way that the coalition, for the coalition to approach this. I don't know how to put it up to a vote with people online.
I think I might know. Oh,
Maybe they can raise their hand.
I think that there's a poll option on Teams, isn't there?
That's I figured there would be. Yeah.
You can have them raise their hand.
You can have them raise their hand.
Okay. Everyone who wants to go with a subgroup, raise your hand online or in person.
Just me.
Wait, say that again.
If you would prefer,
we'll get more.
If you would prefer that we create a subgroup to focus on the website rather than spending another meeting talking about it, raise your hand. That made more sense, right?
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I know what you're talking about.
It's the end of the week, right?
Right.
Close enough to it.
Yeah, it counts.
I'm giving people time to raise their hand. Rob raised his hand, basically. Aaron did here. Amy did here. And then Aaron and Allegra, I guess they don't really care probably. So or want to vote. They don't want to vote. That's what I meant. So it looks like we don't really have a lot of people that would be against it. And I know that when we do virtual meetings, you probably might be busy. So Aaron, Rachel, and Tonya, do you have any concerns with us creating a subcommittee?
I have no concerns.
Not at all.
All right.
I think
so we'll go
Tanya
with,
might not be there. Yeah.
Yeah, Tanya might be busy or answering the phone. So, okay, so we'll move forward with the subcommittee then. If anyone in this meeting, if you're all interested and want to provide your feedback, please reach out to me or Aaron or both, and we'll figure out a follow-up time to do the committee. Perfect.
Was it? I put down Rob, Amy, and Laura. Did you all volunteer so far? or was that? Or you were just voting to have a subcommittee? You weren't voting.
We were voting to
join.
have it. We weren't voting to.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I did. I'm glad I asked because the minutes would have showed that you signed up. Yeah.
And yeah, and if it is something, John said he would love to, but he doesn't have time. So maybe we don't invite you to every meeting, but we give you the opportunity to give feedback on what it looks like or something. So
I'm stuck within the confines of the VA and the federal system and the red tape, and I don't know how any of that works. They're very, very picky about what is attached to that name, right?
Right.
So that's the only reason I wouldn't want to be a part of it. I could ask certainly and help. I don't mind as long as it's, okay with the people.
To that point, though, I would find good value since you've done the conference. Like that, to me, is the gold nugget that I don't have. So that would be the component. Like, are we getting the information? Is it the right,
That's a huge question every single time, right?
Yeah.
Are you getting the right information to the right people? Are you making it worth their time? Yeah, that's a big question.
For sure. And so, so go ahead, Allegra.
I'll just jump in and say, I think being part of the committee doesn't mean that we'll have your organization front and center saying you're sponsoring this effort or anything like that. It's more just you know, we probably wouldn't even list who's on the committee on the website.
Be a silent partner.
And I'd say if you're worried about joining the committee because you don't have too much marketing experience in this kind of online landscape, I will provide tools and resources and background information so that everyone can fully participate no matter where they're starting from. So please don't let that be a concern for participation.
Yeah, so reach out if you want to be part of the mini committee. Like I said, we'll send out information, and maybe that's something I'll send out in the email when I send all the resources, right, to put it up to the people that were not able to join in case they're interested in being part of it. That's something that's really close to their heart. So great. Well, we're almost out of time, but I did wanted to give Amy, I kind of wanted, again, spring, if we are still talking about spring, that's coming soon. I'm thinking maybe not, but we did talk about, I know one of the goals of this coalition, right, was trying to either bring back, because we all know there used to be a caregiver conference at one point, or just recreate like how we touch our caregivers and provide them with resources and support. And so I do want to put that in everybody's radar. Again, the spring might not be possible since we're meeting every other month, so we won't meet in December, we'll meet in January. But it did wanted us to start thinking about it. And I wanted to give Amy a chance to talk about it, right? Because we've had this conversation on how big do we want to make it? How long do we want to make it? How crazy do we want to go?
And I think you learn all that as you hold them and get feedback from people. And I'm very limited in that I only advertise and only market and only have a small group of caregivers that are aware of what we're doing. So in order to bring them in, since I'm the one that mostly talks to them about what they need, I'm the one that's able to say, okay, well, this is the things they talk about all the time. They're like, oh my gosh, you know, my veteran fell, because I work with a unique demographic too. I do not work with people that care for children. You know, my veteran fell, you know, or I need some help cleaning my house, or, you know, so I know what they're looking for. So when I do that sort of conference, I'm looking to meet them where they're at and to bring those people to them, because they're not going to come if it's not worth their time, because their time is precious, right? They have very little time to themselves, very little time to do what they want to do. I want to make sure that what they're going to be doing is worth it to them. So that's kind of how I approach it, but it's so different for the way I do things, because I can't do a lot of this stuff. I can't say, hey, can I use your space? We can't pay for anything. We don't have a budget. Right? We're the VA. Our money doesn't go for things like this. So, you know, I can't even approach people. I have to approach our CD and E coordinator, I guess, community development engagement coordinator, and she has to approach them. I mean, it's such a roundabout, weird system. And, you know, getting donations, we can say, hey, there's prizes, come see if you can win a prize, you know, and all that stuff. And maybe, you know, like I said, I always just think of, do they want to do some, you know, self-care stuff? Do they want to, you know, have a massage? Massage is the huge thing that draws them every year to our luncheon that we added on to our resource fair this year. So, yeah, so I don't know, that's basically how can we get them in there, and you learn that kind of as you go along is what they're looking for.
So tell us a little bit about the resource fair that you did. I don't know that everybody's familiar with it.
Oh yeah, so and do a resource fair every year. Yeah.
And then you partnered it with the lunch.
Yeah, we partnered with the lunch. We served them lunch. So National Family Caregivers Month is in November. You'll probably know that. And we hold a lunch every year in that time, and we serve them lunch. And when we serve them lunch, we provide them with soup, salad, breadsticks from Olive Garden once. Now we serve them soup and salad from the Shamrock down the road because we ran out of money. And then Texas Roadhouse donates rolls. You know, it's all about finding those people that are willing to donate their time or their stuff. You know, and luckily we're in a very great area that's like, yeah, veterans, anything with veterans are like all in usually. But like it has to go through my CD&E coordinator. So then we offer them door prizes during that time, and then after that lunch, while that lunch is going on, they come in, sign in, and we have a guy who donates his time as a massage therapist, and he gives them 10-minute shoulder, neck massages. And so that's always been, everyone has loved that. They love that massage, you know, so much. So we found him, we partnered with him. He donated his time. And then we added on what we call the Summit Resource Fair to it, where we invited a bunch of people that work within the caregiver realm that we work within, right? So ADRC, we invited a bunch of VA partners. We have our home-based primary care group, we had our physical therapy there, we had our audiology there, to bring the services that the caregivers are looking for to them, so they can just run around and be like, oh yeah, how do I get hearing aids? How do I get respite? How do I, get someone to help me when they're falling? So that's what we did, and that's what we did there. And then we have the little summit piece attached to it where people talk, and it's supposed to be about everybody talking about, this is what I provide. And Sandra's been to all of them that I've had. Usually it's just a bunch of caregiver professionals in the room saying, this is what we do and this is what we offer. And it's to allow all the community partners plus the VA partners to understand what they have for resources outside of the VA, and for the people in the community to understand what the VA has for them, because the VA is very confusing. So that's the summit part of it. And we just kind of cut that down this time because we've done it for like 4 hours at a time, and let everybody speak for so long. And I just felt like it was time to back off from that a little bit, because we've done it with the same people at the same time, for many, many years. So we just decided to do it a little different this year. So every year's different. Yeah. So what I just found the biggest part is finding what they want, right? Listening to them and finding what they need and looking for that will draw them there. Or if you can't find that, provide them with some food. Food is always great. Or something like, maybe a drawing for a dinner or a massage, or, whatever, something to get them there. We are able to offer respite to all of our caregivers that want to go. So that is one unique aspect of what we are able to do with that. And that's a bigger aspect for those that have taking care of somebody with such high care needs that they can't just leave at any moment, that they're able to access that respite piece.
Yeah, I think from being at the conference, I think one of the things because the other thing that we didn't necessarily try, ADRC didn't necessarily try, but one of our partners tried to hold an informational night. Caring Transitions, which work with us, and Comfort Keepers. So, Tonya, you may have heard about this or not, but Caring Transitions is an agency here in the area that works with older adults, and she tried to do an informational night. And we had a couple meetings. It was very quick, right? So it kind of came together very quick. One of the things that I saw was kind of difficult is getting people to stick around, right? We were one of those concerns. How do we get people to stick around?
Yeah, they don't want to stick around.
So the massages were really
yeah, they have to stick around for the massage,
right? So if you signed up, we had a few people, right, that
were just still waiting around for their massage, and they happened to walk around.
They happened to walk around and talk to people because they were waiting around for that. So that was a good thought, right? Food, we tried to offer them food. But yeah, so I think one of the biggest thing, I think that we kind of had mentioned in this committee, right? What is a good amount of time? Is 4 hours too much? I mean, I think 8 hours would be out of the question at this time. Erica might be able to speak to this. I know that Erica, I believe you were part of the caregiver conference committee that was happening at one point, right? With Dave? Maybe not.
Long time ago, yes. Yes.
Right. So we used to do that for a whole day, and that did not go well, and so we decided to stop.
Yeah, I think probably a shorter period of time is better, obviously, with respite options during the conference. I don't know, the world has changed so drastically since the last care conference we did, and I don't mean to be, it feels like it has. So I don't know, probably less time with a lot of different options in terms of, in person or how to get there and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the things, like I said, I know we're kind of short on time, and we probably are not going to solve this, but I knew that was one of our priorities for this coalition, so I did want to make sure it was in a radar. But two, I think I think one of the things that, well, one, I don't think doing it in the spring is going to be realistic unless anybody's really upset about that. But I think one of the things that I would like to just kind of propose to the group and ask you all to think about it, and that could be like one of our main agenda topics next week, is who do we think out there could need it the most, right? Do we think we want to bring, do we want to try to bring all caregivers together? Do we want to do it virtual? Do we want to do it in person? Do we want to do kids and older adults separate? Do we want to do it all together? Do we want to do, obviously in person, probably would have to be by region, but do we want to try a virtual option, right? That is open to all of the counties that are in the Western Slope in our coalition. So I don't think we'll have answers today, but I did just wanted to put it up, you know, to kind of share some of the efforts that are happening, and then just kind of put it in your mind, like what does this coalition want to do? Like what does, because we have people here from all walks of life. We have agencies, we have caregivers, we have case management agencies, you know, providing agencies. So what do we think as a committee that our main priority could be? What do we want to prioritize? What do we want to look at? And yeah, coming up with maybe some more of those ideas that have been, what has been successful? What have you found to be successful? What have you seen out there in the community? Erin connected me with someone in the Front Range that has done like a pampering day for caregivers. And so I'll be meeting with them in December, and I'll talk to them, maybe invite them to come to the next meeting and provide some feedback on what has worked for them. Again, we don't have to make a decision today, but just kind of be thinking of what do we think?
Is that our goal? Is our goal for, is our goal to provide them information? Is our goal to just pamper them? Or is our goal to kind of do both at the, pamper and.
Amy, just to provide this I think it's called the Caregiver Pampering Day, but the way you described your conference, it sounds similar to what Brittany and Danny do. Right. Okay. It sounds similar. You're right. It could be a little bit more about the pampering, but it sounds similar.
And I think just one other thought to think about, if, because these are so time consuming and, all consuming to put together, if you wanted to utilize a full day, because really caregivers of adults and caregivers of children have similar but separate needs. So you could gear half the day toward caregivers for children and half the day toward caregivers for adults.
Maybe have the lunch as the
crossing bridge,
so that everybody can come together for
and call it like a fair. Don't call it a conference.
So people could choose so people choose if they want to go the full day, they can maybe have some of those pampering things toward the middle, toward the lunch, and then break off as the further you get from morning to afternoon, have more of the specific things. Just a thought.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think those are great thoughts. And yeah, I think I would love to hear from everybody what experience they've had, what their thoughts are. I think, Amy, to kind of go back to kind of what our goal was, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, and we can always change, right? Like we don't have to stick to this, but I know that when we first started this coalition, there were, I think, two main goals. One of them was to provide information to caregivers, right? That's kind of why we always start the meeting by sharing about what's going on, and we're playing such an emphasis on where do we find these resources, because I think we all kind of came to the idea that it is very difficult to navigate those resources, that yes, you qualify for this if you're at the VA, if you're blind, but not if you're, so there's all these things. And so one is to increase more awareness of the resources for professionals, having a place where caregivers can get those resources, but also just taking care of the caregivers in general, right? And that's kind of where that pampering comes in. That's kind of where the respite comes in, making sure that they are getting that respite and that they are getting those resources and support. So yes, as we move forward with the caregiver conference, I think definitely, or whatever we want to call it, caregiver summit. I think that's what I'll touch base with Eva and hopefully she can be to the next one because I know they do one.
They just did one in Montrose.
Yep, so I know Montrose does one, right? So we can hear from them and see what works. But yeah, maybe we call it a caregiver summit.
I think Laird Landon. Do you know him?
Who?
Laird Landon.
Laird Landon sounds familiar to anyone?
He has a whole. I'll give you information about him. He has a whole caregivers thing in Montrose, a website. He has multiple support groups. He has trainings. He has YouTube videos.
Those are the people we need to find.
Yeah. Exactly.
It is. It's about finding these people, right? And putting them together with the other right people. So.
And again, one thing to kind of keep in mind as we're kind of working on like maybe the Facebook group and stuff like that, the support group, is that a good place where we can give them trainings, where we can post videos on transferring, on medication management, or how to deal with kids with difficult behaviors, right? People with difficult behaviors. And so, yeah, I think two of the main goals of this coalition, and again, feel free to jump in, is connecting caregivers to resources, making those more accessible, but also just helping them get respite and take care of themselves.
And identifying the need. I mean, I think, this transition that we're having with the state and the single entry point and the respite and family support services right now, from a family, and I can speak for a lot of families, it's a nightmare. And right now we're without respite in any way, shape, or form because systems, right? So the need needs to be amplified as well, because we have to talk about these tough things. And so having a feedback loop for these caregivers to come in and talk freely is going to be an important key to this as well, because if we don't get them bought into the idea that they can speak their mind and not mess something up that's in their world, nobody's going to give that feedback to improve any of these systems. And so
give them a place to provide that feedback.
Yeah.
Where they're going to be heard.
Yeah. And safely heard. And because I mean, I came today because we're motivated by lack of respite in Western Slope right now. And I don't think the systems, I'll say, fully understand what that does to families. And I'm here to speak, and I can talk about it all day long, but it's the holidays right now, and I mean, come on. We don't have enough people within this organization to make sure that our families are cared for. I mean, I haven't even heard from Rocky Mountain Health Plan, so about FSSP, about their transition and stuff. So a lot of this is just really, we got to get it out. We got to be able to talk about what it is that the families need, what the systems have to provide for that. And then for me, it's to go to the already existing data. We have this whole website about this caregiving in the US that was put out. Why not tap into that data so we're not reinventing the wheel? Sure, Western Slope is unique, but we have a lot of the stuff that says action items within these reports that are already, we can just cross off the ones we don't need, but we can highlight the ones that are already there. And so for me, it's using the existing data that's already out there. We have to tap it. We have to get into it. And that, to me, is what's going to booster the Western Slope Respite Coalition, because right now, we don't have as many people here as we could and really should. Our policymakers and CEOs. I mean, I was at a health conference with all the CEOs of all of our healthcare organizations. They need to know about this. They need to know about and put their buy-in into this as well. I mean, like the VA, the guy that's in charge of the VA. I think if we get his buy-in on the front end, some of those barriers that we just may not, and I'm speaking, sorry, I don't mean to.
No, you're okay.
I don't mean to. That's just one, I'm friends with him on LinkedIn, so I'm like, I'm gonna message him and tell him, hey, we need you at these meetings. Yeah. But sometimes the personal stories and the like what I'm willing to do is tell him, hey, this is what the need is, because I don't see or I don't feel heard. We'll just say it at that. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, we need it in our area. So,
I second that as a parent too. It is a significant change that a lot of us are going through right now. And there wasn't a lot of documentation or a lot of information given because they didn't know. So I think the sooner we can get any resources out there and available for people, I think is going to be beneficial, no matter if it's a platform on Facebook or getting our website up to date or anything, sending out a newsletter, whatever it is, I think will be very beneficial. Putting on my parenting hat, it's been rough, and he's right. We've not had respite in Grand Junction for as long as I know of, at least for kids. That's suitable. So yeah, I think we definitely need to do something about it and do it fast.
I think, and thank you both. This is why I love both of you being here, because you know, that was one of those things that we talked about, right? We want to open it to caregivers, and we're like, we're not really, I think, at a point where we're ready to open it to caregivers, but we don't want to forget why we're here, right? Like, the Respite Coalition is for our caregivers. And so I really appreciate you both sharing your feedback from as parents, because that keeps us to our goals, right? So I was saying earlier, what I remember was our goal was to provide information and to take care of our caregivers, right? Our third goal was, which absolutely listed there, was making sure that we're identifying needs and that we're addressing them. So one of the things that, again, we're running out of time, and I know we started late, so I really appreciate you all staying late and talking about this. But one of the things that we decided we would make a point in the agenda, right, is talking about any difficult cases or any current issues that are going on that we can bring to light, that we can maybe troubleshoot, and again, approaching some of these things, finding some solutions on how to solve some of these issues. So I think one of the reasons why the resource and sharing resources is so important to me is because I think that is so difficult. You're right, there's not a lot of resources, but I think we often don't know everything that's out there. So ADRC applied for a grant to help individuals on Medicaid to receive respite. Our grant is ending on December 13. We have to utilize it by December 13. We were telling everyone that we had this grant, right? And we've been advertising wherever we can think of about, in every committee that we're at, about we have this grant. If you have a respite need, give us a call. And we're not going to utilize the full the whole thing that we got, the whole funding that we got. So, you know, I think that's part of the reason why, to me, is so important that we do have a good platform, that people are paying attention to what is out there, right? There is no reason that this grant should have gone unused, other than that we weren't just getting the word out there, right? Like, we just didn't get it out there. We didn't have the right platforms. We didn't have, you know, the right stories to share how respite is important and convince those people to use respite. So that's the other part why I do think this is so important, and it's also, I think, one of the things that we control right now, right? But I don't want to forget about the other long-term goals that are just as important, which is, you know, trying to find more respite options for people. So I think those are definitely good things to put back in the agenda. And again, continue to invite people that we think would be beneficial to have here in the meeting to be able to provide that feedback, right? And I think that's a great idea, Rob. Like, maybe for the summit, we have a listening session where we hear from caregivers what their concerns are and what they're doing, what they want us to do. Yeah.
Have a caregiver panel, you know, caregivers from multiple walks of life, you know.
Now we're talking caregiver.
Or like caregiver town hall, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm like, this is probably not going to happen in the spring, right? We want to do this right, and we want to make it worth their time. But that's something that's absolutely, I think, would be beneficial to have. And then maybe we can find people that can go there and listen, right? That can be there to listen with an open mind, knowing
that are able to make change, that are able
exactly
to affect change.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I can listen all day, but there's not much I can do for you.
You're like, I can only do so much. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And using.
And I can understand, but I can't help, so we need to find the people that can.
Yep, and using like this coalition and our resources and our connections to find the people that can make the change and put on those panels and again, make it worthwhile for the caregivers.
Hey, Sandra, I do need to take off, but minutes are in Google. And I actually, Rob, I just snagged a copy of that Santa flyer from your LinkedIn. So I stuck a copy of that flyer in the Google too, Sandra. But anyway, yeah, minutes are in there. And is there anything you need from me before I take off? Yeah.
Erin, do you have a way that we can advertise the respite vouchers under you for those individuals that may not have access to respite right now?
What are you asking? To promote that you have vouchers available or that I do?
That you have, right? You have vouchers available for people anywhere in Colorado.
We do, yeah, and we have, I think I have about 11 folks who have applied. We're going to start a new round January 1st. So I should have about 50 still available. We were going to have 60 total, and I think I already have about 11 applications in there. But yeah, I have about 50 vouchers available. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm always so hesitant I've like shared the link with a few people here and there, but we'll get an influx. But and the thing too, I'm more than happy to share that we have the funding, but we don't have the providers. So I'm not sure. And Rob and I have had this conversation kind of already that there weren't. I think he couldn't find anyone, and the one option we came up with couldn't quite fit within our grant requirements. But we have the money available, but I'm not sure about the providers. But yeah, definitely I'm willing to promote and put out there that we have funding available. It just is, it's hard. It's hard when I know that lack of availabilities are there, lack of providers are there. We do offer the self-directed option so they can use family members, friends, neighbors, that kind of thing. If that's an option for folks, that is hopefully opens up their options.
Would you, yeah, I don't know if you could type up a little thing about your vouchers, maybe your guidelines and the consumer director option that we can share with Erica and Maggie and Laura and Rob, so that, maybe we limit it to the 4 of you, right, that are seeing this need, but making sure that we get you connected with individuals, with those individuals. Again, it sounds like right now because of the transition, there might be people going without respite, and so they may have to wait until January, but
as long as there's hope, man, that's what we try to
right?
we try to give people just hope, because sometimes it's gloomy and it looks a lot gray, and so sometimes even though January is a little ways away, that hope is what.
It's only a month away. I don't.
Yeah, that's true now.
It seems way closer.
Yeah, but that's 30 days.
I know. 31. Whole 31 days. But yeah, no, I think just just making sure that people know what might be out there. And Laura, Todd, Erica, and Maggie, if you do have any people that are really struggling with respite that may have, something that they could get respite next week, they can go ahead and submit an application to me, and we can see if we can still get it within this, because this grant ends on December 13th, and it's not a grant that was renewed, right? It was a grant that was only a one-time thing.